All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Caoimhe Harrington Stack, and I'm co-presenting with my co-author, Effat Farhana, on the framework for multidimensional test of theory of mind for humans and AI systems. So the first thing I want to do is just define theory of mind. Theory of mind is the ability to understand and infer about others' beliefs, desires, intentions, and goals. And I have a little comic here that shows an example. And in case you can't read it, Caulfield says, "May I be excused? I have to go placate the old pressure portal." And the teacher says, "Oh, honestly, Caulfield, just go." And the older student asks him, "What does that mean?" Caulfield says, "To me, it means get a head start in recess. I can't be responsible for what it means in Mrs. Olson's head." And so what we see here is actually an example of theory of mind failing and successful use of theory of mind to get what you want. We see the teacher, when she hears placate the old pressure portal, assumes that Caulfield has the intention of going to the bathroom, and so she tells him, honestly, just go. And she is wrong there, so she's made a mistake in theory of mind. But Caulfield has used that ambiguity about the phrasing he's done to know that when he says that, his teacher will believe he needs to go to the bathroom, and so he's tricked her into letting him go to recess early. But we use theory of mind all throughout our days, all throughout our lives. Some other examples are realizing a comment was taken the wrong way and apologizing for it because you know you made a bad impression, buying a gift for a friend because you know they'll like it, you believe they'll like it, or not bringing up politics with a coworker because you realize it might make them uncomfortable. Theory of mind, unsurprisingly, is really important to humans. Strong theory of mind skills are related to positive sustained relationships, to social strengths, to academic achievement, and to intellectual development. Meanwhile, weak theory of mind skills are related to reduced social skills, stronger feelings of loneliness, and weaker friendships. And although we see that theory of mind develops naturally, kids seem to develop it naturally, there are certain conditions that tend to have weaker theory of mind skills. One that's commonly known as autism, but we also see, for example, in depression and schizophrenia, reduced theory of mind skills. And this centers on an important question we often have in the research community is, can we have interventions that will alleviate these deficits? So it's an important area of research. And theory of mind is also important to AI. It remains an important hurdle for AI to overcome. That's part of our interest in exploring theory of mind in this theory here. The theory of mind for an AI to have a good understanding of it would allow them to better predict about human behavior and also give them a better ability to interact and reason with humans. But theory of mind currently represents a challenge to AI. Currently, we don't know of an AI that can complete the wide range of theory of mind tasks that humans do on a daily basis. And we see that current AI lacks common sense reasoning about the world, which would be useful for theory of mind tasks. We also see that the current theory of mind assessments have weaknesses in two ways, and this is part of our reason for coming up with a new assessment for it. The first weakness is that although theory of mind is complex, many assessments are simple in their tasks. So, for example, the Sally and false belief task or the reading the mind to eyes task really only asks the participants to do one part of the complex set of theory of mind tasks. We do know that it's difficult to cover the range of theory of mind real life tasks as it is such a complex process. The second weakness we see is sometimes we do see more complex theory of mind assessments, but they really require individualized assessment. So happy, strange stories where you're asked to respond to social situations, or the Thomas, which is a semi-structured interview format. These require a researcher or a clinician to do a more individualized assessment. So we are proposing a new assessment that covers a wide range of complex theory of mind tasks, allowing for detailed insight into strengths and weaknesses, and also is easy to score and interpret. So we are proposing the multidimensional theory of mind assessment, the MDTOM, to capture the full complexity of theory of mind processing. We argue that scene comprehension maps closely to real-life theory of mind tasks and thus represents a good task for us to test theory of mind. And so what we're using is film and TV clips, which allow for a wide range of social situations that mirror the real world. One thing that we pulled from as a metaphor was reading comprehension to compare to scene comprehension. And so kind of using as a metaphor for what is required for successful reading comprehension is also required for successful scene comprehension. We find that reading requires foundational perception skills. So these would be skills such as phonological awareness and ability to perceive words. And we find that we need perception skills for perceiving, for instance, facial features and gestures. Successful reading also requires bringing knowledge from the world to what is happening. bringing background knowledge into the text you're reading. And we argue the same thing is true for scene comprehension, that the more knowledge you can bring from the world into that particular scene, the better you can understand it. And lastly, reading requires reasoning about what is perceived and prior knowledge. So reasoning about what has happened and what is likely to happen. And the same is absolutely true for scene comprehension. This assessment is then followed by multiple choice comprehension questions that probe all three categories, this perception, knowledge, and reasoning that are needed for theory of mind. So our goal is to capture the complexity of theory of mind interactions, and we do that with these three components that we talked about: knowledge, perception, and reasoning. And then we split it into 19 subdomains, which I'm going to go over briefly in the next few slides. So the first component, perception, we argue that successful theory of mind requires perceiving what is happening in the scene to correctly identify emotions, feelings, intentions, etc. So this perception, the subdomains include prosody, which is how language sounds; body language and gestures, which is how a person moves or gestures; facial expressions, the way a person's face looks; spoken words, what is actually said; nonverbal vocalization, such as sighs, yawns, shrieks, etc. Character presentation, how a character looks; and the settings, identifying where a character is. Successful theory of mind also requires bringing background knowledge to the scene, and we really centered this on schemas, cognitive frameworks that organize information. And so the knowledge that we argue that people will bring to a scene that help them with theory of mind are object schemas, knowledge about how an object operates given the setting; event schemas, knowledge about what should happen given the events taking place; behavior schema, knowledge about how people should behave given the setting they are in; and personality schema, knowledge about how a person should act given their personality. Lastly, we have the component of reasoning. We argue that successful theory of mind requires reasoning about what is happening, and we divide this reasoning into two subcategories. The first is abductive reasoning. This is inferring what happened in the past based on the conclusion you have observed in the present. And the second is predictive reasoning, predicting what will happen based on what you have already observed. And so reasoning has, in each of these subcategories of abductive reasoning and predictive reasoning, it has 4 subdomains. And those are emotions, states that result in physical and psychological changes that influence thoughts and behavior; intentions and goals, objectives or targets one is trying to achieve; beliefs, ideas or principles judged to be true; and values and desires, which are emotionally charged motivations. So just to recap the MDTOM, we have subjects watch a variety of film and TV clips, and then they answer multiple choice questions that probe these 19 subdomains of theory of mind that we just went over. And what I didn't mention is that the questions fall into easy, medium, and hard difficulty level, allowing for an even more fine-grained analysis of strengths and weaknesses. I'm now going to hand over the talk to my co-presenter, Effat Farhana.
Hello. So here we'll go through a running example to illustrate how the examples of different subdomains and some questions. So here is a small clip, a screenshot of a small clip of the Devil's Work product. Here the Andy is a fresh graduate and has come for a job interview for a very famous fashion magazine named Runway. Miranda is the boss of the fashion magazine, and she is a very demanding boss, and Emily is her first secretary. So as you can see, on the left hand side, Emily proceeds the Andy for the job interview, and Emily introduces Andy to Miranda. But Emily thinks that Andy is not a good candidate for the job. So on the right hand side, you can see that when Andy explains why she is here for the job, so the Miranda remarks that she doesn't like the fashion of Andy, and Miranda also thinks that Andy might not be a good fit for the job. So here I'll go the next slide. So now I will describe that how different subdomains are, and some example questions based on the previous film clip. So here the perception subdomain, we have the facial expression, and we'll present one questions hard. So here is one example question, that how did Andy feel when Miranda told her that's all? The correct answer will be upset and disrespected. So the question difficulty level is hard because it requires to understand and monitor the subtle facial expression. So we have categorized this question as hard. So next question is the example question of the knowledge subdomain, and the subdomain is the event schema. So here an example question is what does Andy expect from Miranda? And the correct answer is she expects Miranda to ask her questions about the position. So as a reminder, so this question is the difficulty level of medium because it requires to understand what the event will take place given the of the scenario. So this is an office setting and it is an interview setting. So Andy expects the Miranda that she will ask her about the position.
You have 2 more minutes left.
Oh, okay. So now there's one easy question about the reasoning question, and it is an easy question. So the example is that why does Andy want this job? Because she needs this job for more experience in journalism, and we can infer this from by listening carefully to the dialogues. So next. So the MDTOM scoring, we have the different scoring. There's easy, medium, hard. So this will all be reported from our framework. And so this suggested intervention can have the different skill that how the person has the score of different levels. So the usefulness of the MDTOM is that because it is a theory of mind is important for the daily life for the human cognition. So it will help, it will give us that how a person perceives and possesses this theory of mind skill. And also it will be helpful for the neurodivergent population because they lack the ability to theory of mind. So if we can assess that on which aspect a person is lacking the theory of mind skill, then it will be helpful for designing intervention. And third, it will be also helpful to design the AI system. So currently there is one line of research for the common sense reasoning or teaching machines that how it will be good for it will be intelligent as human being. So what this line of research does, that first defined a dimension, say knowledge dimension, then crowdsource a lot of questions, and then train the machines. But we argue that this theory of mind is a complex task, and it may require to some questions may be spread across domains. So our framework provides a holistic overview of 3 subdomains to understand the theory of mind skill. So this is all from our presentation, and me and Kiva would like to thank you all from all of our co-authors. And that is it, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. That was a great talk. Anyone have a question? Go ahead.
So you mentioned the Sally Ann task as sort of a hallmark for theory of mind, and it seems to me one of the central aspects of that is attributing a belief to another that is different than the belief you hold.
Yes.
That you know your belief to be one thing, or your belief to be true and their belief to be false, or maybe the other way back. I don't really know how I would know that my belief was, well, anyway, doesn't really matter. None of the examples that you gave here in your method actually involve that, it seems to me. Is that part of this model? Is there a way, are you planning on covering that, or is it going to be extended, or did I just miss it?
It's kind of hidden in it. So it could be in some perceptions in terms of like, where does someone believe something actually, well, it is in there, and it could be part of the perception of like emotions and feelings, but also can get more into the more complex reasoning. And so what we've given here for reasoning is an easy example, but
yeah, I would have expected it in the reasoning. That would have been where I would have expected to see it. And
yeah, so there you could see a more difficult question where you're asked to kind of given that someone believes this, what will they do next? Like a predictive reasoning sort of question.
Are there examples in your study that actually have that flavor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mike.
So I know this paper was mainly about ideas about assessment, and it was detailed, but you did state that you had ideas about its application to AI systems. Do you have some specific ideas about where the low-hanging fruit would be for those of us that want a cognitive system to be more metacognitive and have a theory, not metacognitive, but to have the capability of theory of mind?
Effat, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I think so currently this will cover three different aspects, because we argue that the theory of mind is interrelated. So maybe one question or any question may fall into multiple subdomains. And that's why we argue that maybe so current AI system can benefit to map a question from three or more subdomains to answer the question. So does it answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's time again.